Welcome to part 2 of our series on formatting with graphics. Part 1 really didn't deal with a lot of graphics, but it set up the foundation for what we're going to do in these next 3 lessons. Let's hit quick start and start on our formatting with buttons. All right, let's go ahead and duplicate our last part 1 and just change this, please, to be part 2 and remove the word copy. All right, submit and close that. So at the last time we had a pretty good looking report. What we're going to do now is we are going to actually add some new columns that we can use to let the user show this data by quarter and by total of the year. So let's go ahead and do that by hitting our columns builder. The first thing we're going to do is hit this add new columns feature. First of all, let's resequence the list here. Everything looks good. Adding a new column, we are going to say, no, we do not want this to be a button, but we do want it to go to the end. Okay, so right down here, we have a column, said new column. Let's change that to say quarter 1 total. Okay, and we're going to hit this render feature right here and be able to type something in. So I know it's not ideal, but just look at what I paste here and I will go through what the function is. I'm basically saying we're going to do a number format on this column with a $ and all these features. And our variable is called total Q1. And what we're doing is we're saying get January and February and March and sum them together and then return that with the formatting. So let's go ahead and submit close on that. And let's return and see what our preview looks like. Okay, got to scroll over. I have a quarter 1 total right here. I think it looks pretty good. We have to make some assumptions here that 90 plus 82 plus 72 is that value. Trust me, it is working. So what we're going to do now is go back and repeat that feature for our things. I'm going to pause the video and do that, and we'll come back and look and see what the last totals are. All right, we're back after I've added the other quarters information for the rendering. So we've got Q1, 2, 3, 4, and a grand total. I'll just look at this for you and show you that we've got some functions rendering. And let's go ahead and submit those changes and see what we're seeing here. We've got new totaled columns, similar that we've done in previous lessons, Q1, 2, 3, 4, and a grand total. But what we don't need, and I'm going to go over the columns builder and show you this too. We can see here that we've added them. We've got a table called Q3 totals, and here's the render functions that are in there. So although they are working, I don't actually need them to be visible. So we're going to go back into the columns builder. And for purposes of our lessons, we are going to remove the visibility of these options right here. So right now, if we go back to our lesson, we should just have it's like we never did anything. We don't see those new calculated columns, but they are indeed in our columns builder, and we can use them. So what we need to do now is we're going to actually go into our settings, and we're going to turn on the ability to have buttons. And in order to do that, and if you recall, we're going to go into the DOM position right here, and we are going to add the tag for buttons. And the way you do that is we go ahead and we enter the B part here. So we're saying, please add the element for buttons to our DOM. And when we do that, we submit and close, but nothing's changed. Well, the reason is we need to actually add some libraries. So what we're going to do here is go into our libraries area of this, and we're going to add a couple things that we need to do automatically anytime we add buttons. So we're going to go to this optional CSS extensions area, and we're going to paste in the libraries needed for buttons. So we have a native one for DataTables and a native one for Bootstrap. And then we also need to add in the JavaScript to run that. So where we put that is under the optional JavaScript. We're going to come down here and we're going to say we need the JavaScript for DataTables and Bootstrap. And I'm adding a third one here called Colviz. And basically this is an extension for column visualizations. All right, so when I hit preview on here, we still do not see anything because the column visualizations actually needs some code to be put by it. So what we're going to do now is show you how to do that. This is something, again, that we're going to go into our JavaScript function. And in this area where we just said, please allow buttons, we are going to add a new section for buttons and their definitions. So the first thing we do here is declare the surrounding things, similar to what we did for column definitions. Inside, we are going to add an extension for the column visualizations group. So when I do this, I'm going to paste in this code and I'll try to explain it to you. So within the buttons plugin or extension, we are saying extend this Colvis group and give it this button and give it a name of Q1. And what we're saying is when we created those columns that we just did, we want to show January, February, and March, and the new column Q1 total. And then we're hiding everything else. So let's go see what that actually does. We've added a button called Q1. Right now, everything looks the same, but if I select Q1, it actually ran some code that said, show me those columns and then January, February, March, and Q1 total. Okay, that's pretty cool. So what we're going to do now is repeat that, and we're going to add the rest of the buttons here. And I'm just going to copy and paste those because I've already have them all pre-written for you. So let's go ahead and quickly add those here. And they just follow along as, you know, with the spacing here. So if you can kind of quickly see what I'm doing is I've got Q2 and I'm showing, you know, the months. So again, indexing is very crucial, but I've already went through and done the work for you so that you can see what you need to have and show and hide on all of these, Q3, Q4. I've added a special group called all quarters that just show the totals. And then I've got another one that's showing all the months. So let's go see what those buttons appear like. Q1, we can see Q2 changing, Q4 changing. What happens when I hit all quarters? It changes and shows me the Q1 and the totals. What happens when I hit all months? It goes back and shows me all the months with the grand total. Pretty cool that you can use this kind of a feature to show and display and let the user do what they want. However, I'm not a fan of this styling. So we've now added some button graphics, but we want to improve on the way they visually appear. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about adding a button group. So what I know when I discovered what this area is, it's called the button group. So what we're going to go do is add a new styling for this area. And I want to go put that in my actual table area here because it's really not a class that is going to affect my columns. It's something that's going to be affecting my table or my data tables. And so I've got a group called button group here, and I'm giving it some padding and I'm having a display inline block. What that did is added padding around it, and this inline block just adds the little bit of a separation between the buttons. Okay, so that's looking all right. It's not perfect, but that tells me that area is being improved. But what I want to do now is I actually want to change the look of each button. So where we're going to do that is by I should say we need to be able to understand the classes. And so I'm just going to quickly point out here that we have Bootstrap has a documentation page, and what we're going to be using right now is some of their native button colors. And just for the demo here, you can look into it further or design your own colors, but we're looking at some of these buttons and we're going to add them to our chart now right here. So let's go ahead and do that. And the way we are going to stylize that is I'm going to take quarter one here and I'm going to add a class name to it. So within my buttons, it's similar to before. I can come in here and say class name. I'm going to use button, and this is the Bootstrap things, button, button dark, button small. And when I come over here and preview that, notice how it changed to be smaller, has a different color. So we're going to continue to do that for some of these other options, going through each widget here. And for this one, whoops, my apologies, I've got 2 there. And I'm just going to continue adding some here for our lesson. So on the third one, we are going to add the warning color. So here with success, warning, these are, I should say, named buttons by Bootstrap. So we're just referencing theirs. But again, we could say and call it whatever we want. We could create our own button and give it our own style. But for the purposes of this lesson, let's just get what they have in here. And we're almost done. We got 2 more to go. And then right here, we're going to add the last one. And finally, let's paste that. Okay, so now we have a class for every button, and we would expect to see success, warning, info, danger, and primary. And let's look at what those look like. Pretty cool. We've assigned a class to each button, and we've assigned a class to the group of buttons to provide some styling. I'm liking this. We can see that we can change them. It's pretty easy to read. If you want to get more crazy, you could actually have these colors transfer over here, but for purposes of this lesson, I did not do that. But let's go ahead and look at all quarters here. And what I'm not loving is that Q1, Q2, all this stuff kind of look like the rest of the data, and they're not formatted correctly. So a couple things we're going to do. We are going to add 2 new styles to handle the totals. So go into CSS. Let's head all the way to the bottom. And since this is column, like we're stylizing a column, let's put it in this section. And I created 2 ones called My Total, which is basically changing the font. And then My Grand Total is we're changing the font to bold. And we're adding our transparency variable color to the end. Let's go see what that looks like. And if I hit all quarters again, it did not work. Why? Let's just take a peek and see what we did here. It is because I have not assigned these columns with that class. So there's 2 ways to do it. Remember, I can come over here and do this, or I could go back into the columns builder and actually assign that. So that's where I'm going to do this one, because I find it's easier, and I don't plan on changing the, I want the style always to be applied to these, but the index might change yet. So to safeguard that, I'm going to go into the class for Q1, and I'm going to say My Total, and I'm going to make it right aligned. And I'm going to repeat that for each one. My total right aligned, My total right aligned, My total right aligned, you get the idea. And then for the total column, let's change that one to be My Grand Total right aligned and submit that. Now, when we come back, I expect those classes to be applied to those columns, even though they're not visible. When I hit Q1, watch this, quarter 1 now has a bold. If I hit Q3, Q3 has a bold. When I hit all quarters, I have bold for everything, and the total column has that 40% transparency. So it's pretty cool that you can change the way your report looks by actually adding styling to the classes and creating brand new calculated columns and running that. If I hit all the months, I have the normal formatting, but this one has bold and should I say, you know, and the background color. Okay, so this is also looking pretty good for the fact that we do not, we could stop right here and somebody could use this report and it's looking pretty functional. So I'm going to stop with this lesson, but coming up in the next one, what we're going to do is look at a little bit more advanced. We're going to take these buttons and we're going to group them into a new button So it's like a drop down option. And we're going to add a couple things for icons and, maybe some conditional formatting to change the way this even appears further. So join me in the next part 3, where we'll look at those options for you.